in my youth, I felt like the only person that was into death metal, period, that I knew. Total like introvert at school, crack slipping kind of person. You know what I mean? So my growing up really came after high school, came with this whole thing.
Yep.
And my any strength in life is from this experience.
Worst gig ever with your host, Geoff Garlock on Revolver.
Hey, what's up? This is Geoff Garlock, and welcome to Worst Gig Ever. It's the podcast where we talk to metal musicians about how terrible it is to be in a band, to play music, and all the crap that comes along with being a musician. Today we have a great guest, Tevor from Black Dahlia Murder. Tevor comes in with some great stories, some terrible shows that he's played, terrible people he's had to deal with. He's got amazing tour habits that are terrible, and we talk about porno grinds. We talk about it all. It's really the cavalcade of terribleness that is Worst Gig Ever. So keep on watching. Don't get miserable. It's great. In those early punk, were you primarily I mostly think about growing up and like going to punk shows, and there would be the death metal band that plays hardcore shows. Like
that was
in
us.
Connecticut, we had Tyrant Trooper, and like Tyrant Trooper always played with like Hatebreed, 25 to Life.
And at the time, metalcore as you knew it then was coming around, and there was so much metal coming into hardcore and so many different facets between your dead guy sound to your Swedish metal biting stuff that everyone was doing. So yeah, we existed in a hardcore scene in Michigan. We didn't know of death metal bands to play with. They had to be out there somewhere, but there wasn't like that unity going on, that kind of, seeing the same people at different shows and, house show kind of circuit that kind of makes it happen in that brotherhood level, you know what I mean?
I mean, that's one of the billion nice parts of punk and hardcore, is that it's not like a pay-to-play.
Oh, right. I think there's a lot that can be learned, especially about DIY and what you can do for your own band through punk and hardcore for sure.
Right.
And then you have metal bands that are foolishly paying $6 for their own T-shirt to be made, and they never know any better, and they sell it for 25 plus, and it's like starting a whole cycle of shittiness. Where you know what I mean?
Do you remember any of the the bands you would play with in those early shows?
The first few shows we played, it was like, we played Bane.
Yeah.
That was kind of big. Throwdown was a big one.
Oh, yeah.
Creationist Crucifixion, that was our second show. That was really cool. Really liked those guys.
Crucifixion were great live.
Yeah, they were sick. Right then, though, they were on the talking about programming Game Boy to teach kids how to masturbate. So
yeah, man.
We could all be sexually free, you know? In theory, I get what they're saying, but wow. To talk about it for 45 minutes of an hour set, you know what I mean? That was heavy, man.
It was like the songs were just getting in the way of that being all right, back to the jerking off.
Other bandmates were kind of like, you could see them just looking at the back of their guitar necks, like kind of like, okay, Nate, let's go.
Right.
But what else? The Black Hand, they used to be Ire.
Black Hand were
They were really cool.
First 10 inches, so great.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Time forgot about that band.
Yeah.
Ire
I didn't feel like people forgot about Ire was one of the best bands I ever saw.
Yeah, that's awesome. I wish I could have seen them. Circle of Dead Children, a lot.
Great.
A lot of the early Willow Tip bands were coming through. Yep. Death metal on the punk circuit, like you said. It was Sadist Euphoria, Upheaval.
I think with that too, and like you mentioned the metalcore tag, but like
then it was cool. It was now it encompasses something so broad.
Right.
It encompasses this huge chunk of annoying shit too.
Right.
You know what I mean? But it used to mean something cool. It used to be, the lines were blurred in a way that was really cool. It wasn't so divisive. Like it wasn't like, hey, don't call me that, bro.
Right.
It was, there was, like I said, we started out very metalcore, dude. Our demo was a clone of a band called Prayer for Cleansing that we worshipped. It was the pre-BT band. And, Swedish riffs were, very much utilized in that. Tons of breakdowns. Mm-hmm. Undying was another big one that we liked a lot. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely where we cut our teeth. And if something lasted from that era, it was the intensity of the shows rubbed off on us, I think.
Right.
Trying to compete with bands that only played a few chords and were so lively.
Sure.
And seeing the mania of punk rock in action, of the fourth wall being broken down, where people can stage dive, crowd surf, sing into the mic. We brought that with us, you know what I mean? That's what I want every night for this band, So
was there any point where you fought against it at all?
yeah, along the way, I mean, we've been called a bunch of different genres, and at first it like irked me that they couldn't see us as what I did, which was just a death metal band. And
Well, because that's part of why I always thought it was weird. Because like in all that time, like even from from Unhallowed, I was just like, no, this is a death metal band. Like when I would hear it, I was just like, I can see they're clearly hardcore kids.
Right, we were a death metal band in a unique.
But you didn't have those terrible breakdowns that drive me nuts of like, wow, the guitarist has stopped playing for 30 seconds.
Right. I mean, that came a little bit later. Basically, I want to say like, in a way, deathcore kind of neutered metalcore in that aspect.
Right.
The Breakdown kids went, okay, now they can tune a Z, and I'm going to that. It's way heavier, it's way lower sounding, and they stopped for 30 seconds between chugs.
Yes.
You know, so in a way, there wasn't room for both to exist in that form, it seemed like. You know, the kids like went with, with deathcore at the time, and then we were lumped in with that. But the end result is we're here. The band is doing very well, and in the crowd, I see tons of walks of people from the underground, all different kinds.
Right.
You know, there's true metal guys that we finally broke down their defenses to, or your average death metal kid, or hardcore kids, and everything in between, kind of. And I'm just thankful for how it's played out.
Sure.
It's been really being unique, even if by accident, by it being my weird ass as the front man with glasses and short hair and looking like a serial killer or whatever.
Right.
Or, the comedic aspect we kind of injected into things. We just didn't want to do photos. We didn't want anyone to know what we looked like. We thought, we'll fool them.
Right.
We'll let the music do the talking.
The ultimate grift.
And to me, music does do the talking. That's the last word. You know what I mean? Like, what you are, that's what it is. That record that you made. All I can do is do what we do, and I enjoy the shit out of it. I enjoy the fans, so I'm thankful to be whatever they call it.
Right.
Heavy bark. I don't care.
I think also like you've been in this band since you were when did you start?
I'm the oldest in the band.
Sure.
I was probably 21 when we left on tour. The drummer was 18 at the time. He was the youngest.
So I think with that, like, do you have any moments, and because I think about this all the time, like there's so many moments that I like cringe at, but I was in like different eras of different types of bands. Like you basically have like the documentation of growing up in front of, a microscope, sort of, like the eyes of the world, I guess. Right.
So yeah, I look back at some definite haircuts that I had that were offensive. The etiquette, really, when you were starting out, and we're going over our time slot as the second of four, and not understanding the magnitude of the wake of that, and thinking like, Tim Lambesis was an angry stepfather for like trying to straighten us out, like, what's he saying, man? Come on, we're just trying to do our thing, man. Come on. Just
That's
like
where
not
the punk
getting
part
it.
comes through.
Yeah, not getting it, and totally green ass shit. We didn't know what we were doing. I remember there's a merch dude doing merch for Goat Whore. He used to play in Turmoil. Jamie Getz, explaining to me what a buyout was, because I didn't know what it was. He's like, it's $10. They're supposed to either give you food or compensate you for not giving you food. And I was just stunned. I was like, I can get a hot and ready? Twice?
But it is because no one tells you that. You just end up like...
Dude, there were so many bands that were cool to us, and I think they saw how nerdy and like, very passionate though that we were.
Right.
And I think they extended their hands to us in a lot of ways. And Goat Whore, Soylent Green were those bands. Ben being the frontman at both of them, obviously. Definitely one of my heroes. Seeing him in the very early demo day of our band, 2001, back in doing that metalcore demo.
Right.
We went to see Goat Whore and Immolation at the IROC, and I remember seeing Ben and just being like, my jaw hit the ground. Like, the way he expresses himself up there, talks with his hands, like obviously had an effect on me, because hearing, doing all this crazy shit. It's evolved in a certain way that's different from him, you know, but I made no bones about telling him, like, you're the man, you're the dude. And the two-pronged voice attack too was was huge for me. Started with Carcass, but seeing him then at that show, I was just like, this guy's a god. He's amazing.
I mean, Soylent Green was just always like mind-blowing watching hhim like perform, especially because like Goat Whore is certainly more pop, and it's just like Soylent Green. I would always be like, why don't you all love this more?
I know, they're such a black sheep band. I think it was just, it's too twisted for the average person. I think, man, it's like
there is literally too much going on. For most people.
You have to be a stoner. I think maybe. That does help. I think it has.
39-year-old straight edge man. I'm like, yes, bring me more genre jumping. Yeah. But yeah, no, I constantly was just like, and part of it is because of that. Like, I'm just like watching this man command the crowd.
Well, he's intense.
Always mind-blowing.
And also, when I learned from him, just seeing how he is with the scene and how he is with fans and how hardworking he is, like going through two accidents.
Right.
Having his stomach grafted to his heel,
right.
And recording the second Goat Whore in these like stock boots to like help him regrow his bones or whatever.
Which is crazy.
And like, you cannot fucking stop that guy. And he'll tour to the end.
Right.
And he'll smile the entire time.
Yeah.
He's so annoyingly positive. Like sometimes it's like, God, man, how do you do it?
Stop doing it.
How do you do it, man? So, like, I admire the shit out of that guy. He knows it. I make no bones about it, man.
Right.
I love that dude. So, I thank him for taking us under their wing. Cannibal is another one.
Yeah.
We were very fortunate in that they liked us, wanted to take us out. Now it's coming up to the 8th tour with them now.
Crazy.
So, it only took me about 6 of them until I could look them in the eye.
Right. Yeah.
But, because, I mean, that was like, I'm sitting in my room staring at Butchered at Birth.
Yeah.
13 years old, terrified out of my fucking mind by this shit. But I loved it. I couldn't turn away. And
I remember seeing Ace Ventura
Yep,
with my
yep.
Normo friend who didn't know why I was so excited because Hammer's red faces.
This is crap. What's wrong with you? And you're like, ah!
All right,
Pandora's
you will go
box
this
is open.
path.
Yeah.
I will go this
This
path.
is where the road forks for us.
We
my
have made
friend.
this decision.
Yes, I'll see you at lunch.
Right. But that is the thing. Like, it's like, it is a weird, like, I have these moments all the time. Like, did you ever have moments in play music, tour, especially with metal, where you're just like, what am I doing? Like, where I've always had, like, I never stop having a love of metal. It seems to get stronger, but also have these moments it's like, God damn, this is so dumb.
Oh yeah, for sure. And especially being into the corners of the underground that I particularly love.
Right.
Brutal death metal.
Sure.
Overly misogynist.
Right.
To a ridiculous level. Embarrassingly misogynist.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I love it. Like
Right.
it's a part of me.
Well, that is actually something I was thinking about because I always liked, one of the reasons I remember On Unhallowed, like even the first record, being like, oh wow, he's doing like an interesting approach to lyrics where I was like, this is like personal hardcore lyrics through the undead. Like, and I was like, that's such a different way to take it on. Like, what a nice way to do that.
I write fantasy for the most part.
Right.
But I do put myself in that way, and I try to make it personal in some way where you really can feel attached to the character or realize the personality of the character I'm trying to embody, And I love writing for the band. It's really fun for me. It's a really positive outlet for me. I love having a reputation to scare and disturb with some people that take the time to check it out. So I try to honor what I've done and try to do some head-turning stuff with each record, which is hard because times have changed. It's not 20 years ago. The world is desensitized to a Cannibal Corpse album cover. You know what I mean? The internet has turned the world to darkness.
Right.
And horrible people.
Well, I think that's the thing. Like, it is true. Like, I was talking about that with my buddy the other day, and who's like an old hardcore kid, and I was like, we were both talking about how almost like you're mentioning that with like, especially like slam metal bands and like, very like underground death metal, like how do you deal with that? Like, especially now, like with the political climate and the world and where it's just like in some way, all of a sudden I'm just like, oh man, like all these things I used to like embrace in like an intellectual, it's transgressive. Like even with not even just death metal sometimes, but with like Italian gore movies.
Right.
Like where I was just like, oh yeah, politically it's like definitely questionable. Like the intro to Fucked with a Knife
Right.
is so funny, but also how do I explain that to like my normal
Your average
comedy
person.
friends
Yeah, for sure.
who are, railing against some of the same stuff being said in the mainstream media.
I know, it's a difficult position to be in, and as politics get even more heated up on this kind of subject, it has me thinking more about it, definitely. But it's weird how death metal gets a buy in that way. It seems like, you know what I mean? Like, you're just so stuck in your own thing. They're not going to hurt anyone. They already said they wouldn't. They're pathetic. You know, it's kind of like that, I guess. It's weird.
It's just a hard, like, because I will have those moments, like I'll have them, especially with like, super misogynistic slam metal, where I'm just like, but I like listening to these dumb slams.
You know how many records I have with a pile of naked dead bodies on the front?
Yeah.
Primarily women.
And I think that's like the other day, like my I just had a kid.
Yeah,
so my wife was like, so are you going to take down
what's going
Four
on with
Flies
that?
on Grey Velvet poster you have? Like, I think it might freak him out. And like the Halloween 3 masks in the Cannibal Corpse records, like, are we going to hide these? Like, I think I was wearing a Eaten Back to Life shirt.
You're like,
are you going to wear this eventually?
When the kid comes?
Yeah.
No.
And I was like, I don't know. But it is a hard, like, it's a back and forth I constantly have. Like, almost everything I like is problematic.
Right.
And how do I deal with that in a problematic
it's like,
world?
Fourth graders are talking about coming everywhere. Like, it's a different world now. They're like, everyone swears from moment one. It's like, it's over. Decency is over.
Yeah. Maybe that's it. Maybe we just have to embrace, like, fuck it. And everyone should listen to...
It'll come full circle.
Yes. To, Japanese slam metal.
Yeah.
Or, like, the new Decapitated.
Yeah. Ovarian despoilment.
Oh, yes, exactly. I mean, that is the weird hard part. It's so hard. Every once in a while, like, I'll have, like, we've talked about, like, I love Deathspell Omega. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm like, amazing band. Musically so good. A smart, interesting take on religion.
Reinvented black metal for the new
then,
era, I'd say.
The singer is just in some porno grind bands called Cream Face. That everything is just about ejaculating on a woman's face.
Right.
And I'm always like, okay, maybe it wasn't as smart as I thought.
You could go to Obscene Extreme Festival and see every one of those bands on one bill, where every single band has pitch-shifted vocals.
Oh, boy.
And people in the crowd have like toilet seats around their heads and stuff, and plungers and inflatable dragons, and it's a good time. You go to the porn grind fest. Bring your big black dildo and wave it around.
That's always just been something I've had to reconcile anyways, is that like not really liking a lot of the people around me anyways. Any sort of genre. Like, it was the same as in hardcore shows. Same as in fucking Screamo shows. Same as...
Every corner has its own trappings, I think.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. You just have to embrace it. At this point, going back to just bad shows, like what takes at this point to make it a bad show?
It's usually equipment stuff now. Usually we can, go from the beginning to the end, sound like we're supposed to sound, if everything goes right in that regard. Guitars turning off, battery packs shorting out, little things like that. And the other ones are some of those conditions where you're playing in the third world or whatever, where you're up against a lot of odds as far as, the equipment you're renting. A lot of it's going to be janky. You're going to be assembling a drum kit out of 4 different colored no-name drum kits with no bottom heads.
Sure.
And the whole day is basically spent getting the equipment up to par right before doors, and then playing this kind of humiliating set on all this weird sounding shit.
Yeah.
And you have to just kind of grin and bear it through that kind of stuff, It's just par for the course, really.
Bass
over
players
there.
always trying to convince them that a 115 might not be enough for the whole show.
Like, come on, guy.
Oh, crate combo?
And the shows just are on no time frame. They'll just run till like, you're going on at 1 and you get off at 2:30. How's that sound? That happened a little bit ago.
That was in Germany too, with the dance parties after.
Oh yeah, that's where I don't need to go.
Yeah, that's the other.
I've been to those, dude. And
all of a sudden, a faux party shows up and life got different.
Oh, it doesn't matter what kind of party it was. We would go to it and consume the beverages.
Sure.
For sure.
What is your go-to bad food on?
Ooh, man, that's hard to even pin one down because I'm on like this insane tear ever since I was been born. My food pyramid is disgusting.
Yeah.
But
And horror is no way to help
beef
out.
jerky's up there. Fast food is way up there. We just eat a lot of fast food. It's just,
What's your go-to
It's
for
too
fast
convenient. Taco Bell's my fave.
Yeah.
The
Chief, it's
the
easy,
5-layer
you know what it
burrito. It's semi-consistent. It's usually lukewarm to cold consistently. When you
Yeah.
get a really hot Taco Bell that burns your mouth, it's like, what the hell is this?
Did we enter
What
another
happened?
dimension?
Yeah, it's like, wow, man, this guy's won the lottery today and he didn't quit yet, or what is this?
It does feel like when they shoot in that sour cream gun, it just drops everything down.
Yeah,
like
it kind of
20
does. There's a few
centigrade.
things they're putting together that, like, what did you expect? You know what I mean?
Which is usually the best way to go into Taco Bell. What did you expect?
Yeah, that's what they should. That should be the slogan. Taco
Live
Bell.
Mas, what did you
Taco
expect?
Bell, what did you expect? That says so much. It says about like what happens to your gut afterwards. You know,
Yep.
like everything.
I mean, honestly, it's a kind of a great way to sub up tour.
Yeah,
It's
totally.
like, what did you expect? Like, this
It's
is what it
camping
is.
full time.
Do you ever, when you get back from tour, do you have that weirdness of just like, oh, right, I have to get back into real life? Like,
Yeah, and it's especially hard for me because I live in the same exact town I always have,
Yep.
and they don't take me seriously at all there. So it's like a stark contrast to having people want to talk to me about the band or whatever.
Sure.
Or, you know, it's like a hard smack from reality sometimes to be back home and go back to your problems.
Right.
And just to have enough time to like fester on shit that bothers you. At home, you have it. Out there, I'm just like tunnel vision, doing my thing. You know, I used to go out and count the days, but it's like, what am I waiting for? I live out here all the time, and it's like I can't just shut my life off.
This is what it is.
Yeah, I had to like accept it,
Right.
and that made it a lot more fun. It makes it a lot more fun for me.
Yeah.
But also that can kind of bite you in the ass too, because sometimes you have this relationship that's waiting for you, and I end up like drifting away into my own dimension by the end of tour. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People look at tour like, oh, it's so exciting, but for the most part, you make it into this routine. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Where every day the same shit happens,
Yep.
and it's like clockwork. So
You need it for your sanity
you do.
to some extent.
But the element of surprise that's gone, I miss so much. Like crashing at people's houses when it went good.
Right.
You know, when you could eat all their food or whatever, or, you know, stuff like that.
Right.
Or, you know, and then there's the other side where it's like, oh, I forgot to tell you, there's no carpet and we have 14 ferrets just running around.
There are
Sorry.
a lot of weird animals, especially in like mid-America. Like, you know, you get in the real crux of it.
Yeah.
Like, you're like, what is that albino squirrel you have in like a fish tank?
My first actual girlfriend, girls were like very much averted for, like they
Sure.
were not a part of my world for a long time
Right.
in school. But my first girlfriend had ferrets, and she had this weird bunk bed, and it was like chicken wire under her bunk bed, and these ferrets in there. So she's just like kicking it with this ferret stench or whatever, just straight up all the time. And that was the kind of quality women I could get
Yeah.
back then.
I mean, they're stinky animals too. And so you,
Yeah, they
you
are.
take what you can get there.
Uh-huh. And they'll bite you, right, and piss all over you. They sound like fun.
Right. It is very hard to make phone calls on tour.
It is.
Like,
it
I'm
is
not good at
because
it.
It's funny because people think it's this wild party or that there's so much variation in it
Yeah.
that you would have something to talk about fresh.
Yeah.
But in reality, like we said, it's very cyclic and boring most of the time. When you're not playing, something sucky's happening.
Yeah.
You're either waiting or you're driving or well, you could be sleeping. That's okay.
Sleeping's good. It makes time disappear.
It sure does.
But I would end up driving because
made-
I was scared of everyone else driving.
It made years disappear.
Yeah.
It made my face look really old.
Sleep.
It made my liver turn into a prune.
But it's all worth it in the end.
I'm here.
Yeah, exactly.
The band's doing well, and things are. It's amazing to be around and have survived different, like we said, genres coming and going in popularity, and we're thinking long term from day one and globally from day one, basically, and yeah,
Which
it's
is
been
super
really fun.
rare, I think.
When I came into the band, the biggest thing I brought, the first 2 out of 3 practices was that we were gonna make demos, get a recording done, and shop it, and like try to get on some kind of label, you know, DIY or all the way up in the metal scene, and actually try to do something.
Yeah.
And, they seem to think, I just like lit a fire there with that. And then finally, the third time I came, I was more prepared. My voice was better,
right?
Et cetera, et cetera. But I think that enthusiasm is why they had me come back the first couple times. But
you need that enthusiasm.
Someone's got to shake you and make you think, I can do this.
Right.
Why not? Just reach out and do it.
Right.
Just do it. Make it yourself and do it yourself.
That's
Get off your
DIY
freaking ass.
Yeah.
And do it. So that is another way that hardcore came in handy and punk rock came in handy for us, was that we knew you had to do it. And get in the van, when I read it, somehow I took it as, I have to do this, even though it's about being treated like shit, being spit on, hitting the head with a mug, being the weird hippie band that took the brunt of punk rock's overgrown jock thing that happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they had it so much worse, and they carved out the tour route that we all do, basically.
They were the starter. We are still doing Black Flag's tour.
Right. And that's amazing. And that to me just said so much about, don't wait for anything to happen for yourself. Fucking do it. Doesn't matter if you're trying to make a metal band to get out there. Use those same tactics, man.
Yeah.
And reverse engineer the way we were finding music online. To get it to blogs, get it to different ears, different outlets. Also being computer savvy, I think somewhat this entire time has been largely instrumental in being here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Embracing social media, breaking down the fourth wall with that, talking to the fans. They know it's me on the end of the Facebook. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They come there, they ask questions, and they get a huge kick out of it. It's all you got to do.
Yeah. Talk to people.
And we've always tried to be that band too that, is visible, is here on earth, hopefully extending our hands to fans. Because I feel very thankful to be around people that I have a common ground with. It's been awesome, to say the very least.
That's great. I mean, out of all that garbage touring,
right?
Nothing but inspiration in life.
For sure. And this is the success that's been slowly just coming to a head, and it seems like we've been on a really great trajectory with the last few records, and I couldn't be more excited now, 8 albums in, to still be doing this and not see the dream taper off, but show no signs of stopping. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's incredible. So it's transcended the glass ceilings of just being a death metal band, I think, and lumped into that in a great way. So I'm thankful for the weird road or whatever it was, that got us here. But
that's awesome. I love that. So I think great stories, great summary of being in a band. The final question I always ask, what do you think of the word gig?
Hate it.
Perfect.
To me, gig is the person that says we rehearse too. It's like a dreamer that pays to play, which you should never do. It's dudes that bring chicks to their practice space,
Yep. It's a whole nother type of dude.
And when you rent somewhere with a bunch of other bands, that's mostly what you're going to get is a house full of those guys.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Bands that build a stage in their practice room with lights on it and stuff. It's like, what planet are these fucking people from, man?
Planet Gig.
Planet Gig, bro. Planet Rehearsal.
It's a rehearsal, bro. Bring my chick.
Got my chick, man, and her friend.
Perfect. Thank you, man. Thank you
Hey,
so
thanks
much.
a lot. It was fun.
Awesome.
I enjoyed it.
Worst gig ever on Revolver. Oh.